You know what you want to be doing. You have that goal in your mind, but you also have a history of self-sabotage. You have a history of starting out and making some progress and then tumbling back to where you were and feeling like, what am I doing? What do I have to do to push through this and to achieve that goal?
You're watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.
Hi friends, welcome back. Guys, I'm so glad you are joining me again for my second episode. And today we have a great topic. We are going to discuss 3 ways to overcome self-sabotage. Now, this podcast is all about self-development. And whether you know it or not, you are on a self-development journey, and you always have been. And my intention here is to really come alongside of you and to really help you as you make more progress, better momentum, and to really push through those things that keep you stuck and those obstacles that are really getting in your way. So today, one of those big obstacles is self-sabotage. And guys, I'm speaking from experience because let me tell you, over the years, I have certainly dealt with self-sabotage. And to me, self-sabotage is when you know what you want to achieve. You have a very specific goal in mind. You know what you need to do to get there, but you keep doing stuff to block your progress. Right? And this is a very familiar experience, especially coming from the fitness world where, somebody starts out at the gym and they have the best intentions. They're going to lose the weight. They're going to feel amazing, maybe for the first time in their life. And for the first 4 or 5 weeks, they're doing awesome. Right? They're doing the workouts, they're meal prepping, they're sticking with their plan even when it's difficult. But then something always happens around week 4 or 5 to get them off track. And then it's like a snowball rolling down a mountain. And before they know it, they've regained all the weight. They've lost all of that momentum. And they're really back at square one, or potentially they're back in worse shape than they were before they started. And there's that feeling that comes over when you realize, I did it again. I fell off the wagon. I lost my momentum. I'm kind of here like in a heap at the bottom of the mountain again. What am I doing? How did I get here again? And so that is self-sabotage. And I'm sure you've felt it in your life in some aspect. There's something that you still today want to achieve, and you can achieve it. And it could be something big. It could be something like, I want to, publish a book, or I want to go back to school and I want to, earn a degree that's going to put me in a different industry. It's going to put me in a different place in my life. You know what you want to be doing. You have that goal in your mind, but you also have a history of self-sabotage. You have a history of starting out and making some progress and then tumbling back to where you were and feeling like, what am I doing? What do I have to do to push through this to really get across the finish line and to achieve that goal? And so today I want to share 3 steps with you to really overcome self-sabotage, this universal condition that we all have experienced. So guys, the first step to overcoming self-sabotage is to drop your fixed mindset. Now, maybe you've heard that term before, fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, but what does it really mean to have a fixed mindset? Well, if you've ever said something along the lines of, I'm the kind of person that fill in the blank, right? I'm the kind of person that loves sweets. I'm the kind of person who hates exercise. I'm the kind of person who doesn't do well in school. You name it, you fill in the blank to what resonates with you. But by putting a label on yourself, You're fixing your mindset and you're saying, this is outside of what I do. This is outside of what I'm comfortable with or what I'm capable of. And so really looking for places in your life where you are you're brainwashing yourself with a fixed mindset. Now, I'm sure you've heard the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And there's so much truth to that. And I think that really speaks to, is your mindset fixed, or do you have this growth mindset where there's just possibilities, right? You're in a growth mindset when the world is full of possibility and you just have this excitement and this feeling of hope. And that really, truly anything is possible, and that that you're capable of achieving these great things. So that's a growth mindset. Knowing that you can change for the better. And so another way to look at it, guys, I love metaphors, and you're going to hear some more metaphors in this episode. But if you can picture yourself, are you a stone? And if you think of a stone, it's hard. There's really no way to modify it unless you're going to make it smaller, take a chip out of it, right? Or are you a ball of clay? Now, if you've ever played around with a high quality, actual clay where, at first glance, it kind of seems like a stone. It's not like a Play-Doh. It's not really easy to move it around and to just shape it however you want. And that's the way we are, right? We are moldable. We can change the way that we live, the way that we see the world, the way that we feel. We can change all of it, but it's not simple like Play-Doh, right? You got to put some effort over time, and then you can shape yourself into any shape you want. So this first step to overcoming self-sabotage, dropping that fixed mindset and just picturing yourself as this little ball of clay that you can put the effort in to shape it into any shape that you want, right? You're not stuck in the shape that you are right now. So let's just drop those labels that you've put on yourself. I used to say, I'm a coffee drinker. I love coffee. I can't start the day without coffee. This was a big label that I had on myself. And then in recent months, when I realized that, caffeine was actually pushing my system into the red, wasn't helping me, right? Wasn't helping me maintain positive thoughts and keeping my emotions cool and under control. And so I changed this label and I said, you know what? Caffeine doesn't serve me. Maybe I don't have to be someone who starts the day with a giant cup of coffee. Maybe I can learn to like decaf tea, which is what I've done. And it's an exciting place to be, right? When you change how you view yourself, you change the label that you have on yourself to something that opens you up to possibilities. All right, guys. Number 2, the second step to overcoming self-sabotage is to identify your limiting beliefs. Now, this is different from a fixed mindset because limiting beliefs are they're things that we believe emotionally about ourselves. So going back into how we have the 3 circuits that make up the system, the physical body, we have our emotional network, which is really our limbic system, and then we have our thinking mind, which is that neurocortex, which is, where we have logic. Now, negative self-beliefs are not stored in your thinking mind, right? And we know this instinctively. We store negative self-beliefs in our emotional system in a way that's a little bit inaccessible from our thoughts. And that's why there's a disconnect, and where your thoughts, your mind is telling you, I'm going to crush this goal. I'm going to lose 40 pounds and I'm going to look great this summer on vacation on the beach, right? Your mind tells you this, and you start out with vigor, but then 4 weeks in, your emotional system, which is storing a negative self-belief that you wouldn't logically agree to, but it's stored in your emotional system that, hey, I can't achieve this, or, I'm not worthy of achieving this. That's where the self-sabotage comes into play. And so for us, identifying what these limiting negative self-beliefs are that we hold in our emotional network is really key to then integrating them with our thinking mind so that we can get past them. Because these negative self-beliefs really only hold power over us when we're unaware of them. It's almost like they're this software that's running in the background that we never agreed to, but it's there and it kind of overrides things. It overrides our best intentions and it overrides our great efforts that we put out. But until we can flush those negative, limiting self-beliefs out of our limbic system, out of that emotional network, they're gonna be there and they're gonna get you off track. So one of the best ways to really, especially if you have a very specific negative self-belief that you've identified, you can probably tie it back to some traumatic memory or something in your past. And then these memories typically stack because once we kind of have a negative self-belief kind of has a hold and it's kind of been implanted into our limbic system, then we're going to look for more evidence and we're going to create this dysfunctional memory network that grows. And it almost becomes like a bit of a monster in our emotional network. And so identifying what your limiting negative self-beliefs are is step one. And if you are someone who's kind of like myself, where you're like, I just want to figure this out and I know exactly what my negative self-belief is and I know exactly why I developed that. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with you for developing negative self-beliefs. It's actually the way the human brain is designed is to make meaning out of the things that happen to us. And so when trauma happens, we talked in the last episode about how when your emotional network, your limbic system is charged and it's in the red, your thinking mind goes offline. And so you're in fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight, your limbic system makes meaning, but it's all about how to make meaning in relation to myself. And so you'll go through a traumatic experience, and I'm reading from a list here of negative cognitions, but you might come out of that experience thinking, I don't have control of my life. And then that could just be a theme that follows you of I don't have control. Or you might have the negative self-belief of I'm powerless. And this is based on something that happened to you in a moment of trauma, whether it be, a big scary trauma or an emotional trauma when you're being ridiculed on the playground as a child. Like there's both levels of trauma have this same effect where we want to make meaning out of it. We kind of want to feel like it's our fault because that gives us control, right? This is happening in the background. You're not doing this consciously. It might be a negative self-belief about safety. You might think, I can't trust anybody, or I can't stick up for myself, right? And then this becomes a theme in your life. I don't trust people. This is one of those things that gets you to self-sabotage. Or maybe you think, I should have known better, or I did something wrong. And then this can become a theme, right? I'm not worthy. And so these things live in our limbic system. And there are ways that we can flush it out of our limbic system so that it no longer runs in the background. And so we have more integration. And so when your thinking mind says, hey guys, this is the goal, we're all going to work together towards this fitness goal, then your emotional network is on board because you've flushed all of these negative beliefs out. So one of the best ways to do this is by working with an EMDR therapist. And we can put it in the comments below, but EMDR, that's the type of therapist that I'm training to become, but it's a very outcome driven, process driven, short term therapy that just really targets negative self beliefs. And if you're not at a place where that sounds like something that you'd be ready to do, just spend some time thinking about this. We've talked about this before, how when you step back and you start observing your experience, noticing these triggers and these negative self-beliefs as the observer, just creating that little step of distance, you start to create some integration with your systems. Okay, guys, so that was the second step to overcoming self-sabotage, is to identify your limiting beliefs. The third step to overcoming self-sabotage is to silence your inner critic. Now, going back to the metaphors, I have a very specific metaphor for my inner critic. And guys, this is a dragon. For those of you who are watching the video, I've got my dragon, and I have a couple of these around the house and around my office because it's such a visual for me to put an image and a character to my inner critic. And so, as we go about going after a dream, going after a big goal, oftentimes that inner critic, that dragon that's sitting on your shoulder, will just come in and say the most discouraging, negative things. And you know what I'm talking about. And you don't even know where this voice comes from. Maybe it sounds like one of your parents or one of your teachers from when you were younger. But for whatever reason, it is very human to get this inner critic that just grows in our mind. And so for me, guys, I picture this is, again, a stepping back from what's happening to us, from the experience that we're having, to observe. And when we do this, we're able to do some integration, and we're less in the moment and we're more observing it. And when you step back and you're able to observe it, it's a place of power. And so when that voice comes up and you're working towards that fitness goal, and that voice comes up and tells you like, oh, you're tired today, just stay in bed. Or you've stuck to your meal plan for 5 days in a row. Like you don't need to eat clean tonight, right? Or you really think you're going to be able to lose all the weight and you're going to be able to fit in that bathing suit? Really? Have you ever been able to do it in the past? That is your dragon. And so for me, silencing my dragon is very simple, because as soon as I hear the dragon's voice, it honestly, now it makes me chuckle because I have such a visual, and it's almost a game. It's like, really? You think you're going to get me off track with such a stupid comment? Like, why would I listen to you? And to be fair, the dragon and the inner critic, the intention behind it is really to protect us, but to protect us by keeping us small, right? And we know better than that. So we know that, hey, this is my inner critic, this is my dragon. I'm not going to listen to you because I don't want to live small. I don't want to live like this. I want to open up to possibilities and to excitement and to just a future that is full of wonder. And so that is the third step to overcoming self-sabotage. Silence that inner critic. Picture the goofiest dragon sitting right behind your shoulder, right out of eyesight, and just laugh at him and just say, nice try. Not this time. Not today, dragon. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I am going to leave you with a little piece of extra credit, because as we move towards a goal and as we push through self-sabotage, the most important mindset that we have is that of positive expectations. There's actually studies that have been done in the therapy world where the researchers are like, why does therapy sometimes work? And they've been able to break down, here's the components that we know if these are in play, then it's going to be a good outcome. The person's going to leave therapy doing better in life than they were when they started. And one of the biggest things that they found was if that person walks into the therapy feeling like this is going to help me, I know I'm going to come out of this. They have these positive expectations. I know I'm going to come out of this process on the other side a better person. And it's almost like you might think like placebo effect or like something to do with congruency. But if you believe it, it's much more likely to happen. So guys, this week, your extra credit is just to simmer in some positive expectations for yourself. Just know, I can overcome self-sabotage. I can drop my fixed mindset and drop the labels that I've given myself, labels that don't serve me. I can drop those. And I can, really dig into my emotions and identify what are my limiting self-beliefs? What am I holding on to in my limbic system that doesn't serve me anymore? You can do this, and you can silence that inner dragon and laugh at him and say, nice try, dude. Not going to work today. You guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you just being on this journey with me and the fact that you're investing in yourself to just reach a higher version of yourself each and every day. So thank you so much, and I will be back next week with another episode. And guys, if you do like this content, please like and subscribe so that I can keep creating this content for you and we can connect and engage in the comments. So thank you guys. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching Developing Potential with Diana Keuilian.